And on today's show, why planning is important to women. Part one of this week's series on financial planning for women with registered investment advisor and certified financial planner, Heather Coulter. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Innsmark, Life Specs, and Backroom Technician. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to the show, Heather.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Well, we're talking about a big subject because women are the largest demographic group in the United States, bar none.
Yes.
The World War II and Korean men are gone for the most part. That means that mothers probably in a nursing home or assisted living at home with her baby boomer daughter running the show.
Yes.
So there's a lot to talk about because there's going to be trillions of dollars transferring to this woman, and her daughter is going to be running the show.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is a big issue. I was surprised. The first thing we were talking about today is that the makeup of majority of college graduates are now women. When I first went to school, that wasn't even close to being true.
No.
One generation, it's changed.
Yeah, the majority of college graduates, they represent nearly half of our labor force, and 42% of households are actually women are the breadwinners now.
And when they're the breadwinners, you're saying that their actual income is higher than their male counterparts.
Well, yeah, that would be true, or because they're single and they're the only breadwinner.
Now, there's been always this debate about women in the workplace in regards to balancing careers and family, because a lot of women are still having children and working full time.
Right, there's lots of competition for their time. They're involved in charity events, they have careers, they have homes to take care of, they have children to take care of, and some of them are even the sandwich generation where they have elderly parents that they need to care for.
And I'm assuming that doesn't even include the activities that the children go through. They're soccer moms.
Exactly.
Now, I've noticed that women are very sacrificial. They're just a gender. They're very giving. I notice you say they often put others ahead of themselves.
Yes,
I can
they
say
do.
Totally get that.
Yes.
And
very nurturing.
And you just said the sandwich generation, which would mean I am not only taking care of my elderly parents, but I'm taking care of my kids, my husband.
Yes.
I still have a job.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the number one pressure job a whole demographic of women have this description, what we just said.
That's absolutely true.
Well, talk about a little bit about the influence on households, because the decision, I mean, yes, I go shopping every once in a while in the grocery store, right? But it's dominantly women going through that store. It's going for buying things for the home, the appliances, everything else. Women are making the decision and pretty much running the budget.
Right.
Now it looks like we're crossing over, and now they're running the assets of the family.
That is true.
We'll talk a little bit about that, because that's that's a change in our society.
Well, and I think it does need to change even a little bit more. We are starting to see that transition. But women, because they have so much competition for their time and they're taking care of everybody else before themselves, they often neglect their financial independence and financial awareness. So I think there needs to be more of that with women.
How can a woman who says, I want to educate myself and bring myself up to speed, where can she go on that?
Well, the basics, actually. I mean, the financial awareness, women are living longer than men, and they need to understand and start somewhere when it comes to planning for their future.
Now, I noticed that you said this, and this is true, husbands tend to dominate all the decisions, but that's all changing with the baby boomer generation.
Absolutely.
I see a huge partnership developing.
Yes.
I see more women totally involved in the big issues like retirement, long-term care, education for the children, maybe even now grandchildren. I mean, it's just expanding. And women live longer. Listen, every day, Willard Scott, when he had his program, he'd say, happy birthday to people turning 100. That demographic is huge, but the demographic is dominated by women.
Right.
So they're living a lot longer. And sometimes if you have the same male and female living, that they're at the same age, that mom's outliving her husband, her male counterpart, maybe by 7 to 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Women are going to primarily live by themselves at some point in their lives, whether they're finding themselves suddenly single because of a widow or because they're divorced or they never got married, and because they're living longer, there's going to be some point in their lives where all of a sudden they're going to be forced, if they're not already in the financial situation and understanding what that is, they're going to be forced to do so.
When I think about that, it's interesting to note that I don't know if we as advisors actually address those issues like survivor benefits.
Right.
The female is 95% of the time going to be the survivor on this deal. Now, so we have to speak to that. But now most women spend a part of their time, and when they're going to do it single, no matter if they chose to be single, they were widowed, they were divorced, now they are single. And I've heard you talk about this before, suddenly single.
Suddenly
didn't just happen.
single.
It just didn't happen over a long period. It was sudden.
Right, and sometimes it wasn't elected, obviously, right? It was a surprise to them.
Well, I'm thinking about some of the things, some of our topics here. you have a kind of a lifestyle. Not only are you a registered investment advisor and a CFP, a certified financial planner, but you also are a jazzercise instructor, right?
I'm trying to figure out how you put that together. Yeah.
Those two vocations
It's a
together.
wonderful balance for me because I can talk to women all during the day about serious financial type things, and then I can go and I can be with my gals and I can shake it at night. So it's a great balance.
Now, do you see any crossover or common ground between your instructor as a jazzercise instructor, which you do completely for a hobby, because you're fully engaged as a CFP and an RIA? I mean,
Yes.
you have assets under management that are huge.
Yes. There's an analogy that I often use that women will comprehend. So sometimes when I say you have to get started somewhere and they're new maybe to taking over their financial and they're more interested in becoming more aware of their financial situation, I say, think of it like this, where you can think about what comes in and what goes out. Just like in calories with jazzercise, you can think about what you put in your body that day and what you burned off while doing class. Things like that. And just simple budget. Always understand what you own, what you owe, what you earn, and what you spend. I mean, it comes down to the four basic
Say that one more time to make
budget.
sure we get the summary.
You want to make sure you know the four basic budget rules in my mind. And as what I say is what you owe, know what you own, so what's in your name, what you spend, and what you earn. Those are the four basic when it comes to budget.
We come back from the break. We're going to continue our saga in trying to unpack why finances are so important to women, the #1 demographic in America. It's not how much money you make for your clients, it's how much money they get to keep, especially in retirement. But retirement income could cause Social Security benefits to be taxed. One tax advantage alternative is life insurance designed as a non-modified endowment contract that can generate tax-free income without taxing Social Security benefits. These contracts offer differing funding options depending upon your client's risk tolerance. For more information on how life insurance can be part of your retirement planning, just email me at steve@downtobusiness.tv. Brought to you by Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to our second segment. Of course, we're with RIA and CFP Heather Coulter. Heather, just give me one more time to get those four in my mind, just so I have it in there.
4 main points to budget is what you own, what you owe, what you spend, and what you earn.
And that's an easy thing for all of us to remember, and I like that because it kind of touches all the touch points that I want to do. Now, let's talk about debt payoff. You talk about two things. You want to spend less and earn more. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, people always come to me and they always say, I don't even know where to start. I don't have an emergency savings. When do I start investing? You just start small. So you have to think about it. If you have debt there that you want to pay off, there's only two things you can do. You can either earn more or you can spend less. It comes down to that.
Can I do both?
Yeah.
Try to get both sides of the balance sheet?
Right, absolutely.
All right, now when you talk about emergency, when you have women come in, how many of them do not have an emergency account?
Oh, about 50%, I would say.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, the older ones probably do. The generation with the baby boomers obviously have more because their lifestyle needs sometimes can be less.
And they've went through traumas.
And they've gone through some
Right.
traumas and they've learned the lessons. More my generation or younger, they need to understand again where to start. So if you get that larger tax return or you get that bonus, instead of just always deciding what you're going to do to the house and what vacation you're going to take, always take a percentage of that and maybe start that emergency savings. There's larger expenses that happen throughout the year that people kind of neglect or forget to put into their monthly budget. So those larger things, or a large car repair that you know that's coming up, or if you're paying your car insurance or homeowners every year, all of a sudden in life insurance premiums, all of a sudden the bill shows up in the mail and they haven't been saving through the months and they haven't allocated that to their emergency savings, and it's not there, and so now they're struggling and they feel like they're living check to check.
Now, that's a big thing. You know, when we come up on tax season and we're looking at a refund, this is a great time to start to fund your emergency account and some of these repair accounts that you have that are inside that account with your tax refund.
Sure.
And so I would think that most people, the older somebody is, like you said, a boomer female, is already went through some of life's experiences. No, she has to do this. But a lot of the young ones haven't went through those experiences. And so this is a good time that they're talking to you and they're getting caught up on what they need to do. When you talk about this competing dollars, boy, this is a list. I was thinking about, wow, I got retirement, my kids are going to school,
Yes,
I'm trying to pay all these bills.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, we hear that often. I mean, for men and women, right? There's a competing dollar. They're trying to save for retirement. They have children still in college. They have college kids coming back home. They have older parents that they're trying to take care of. So they don't know where to start. They just feel like that competing dollar. But it comes down to what I've said in the past and I've written about in the past, and it's out there, that analogy of if you're in an airplane and the attendant is saying, the flight attendant is telling you if the air pressure drops and the mask comes down, make sure you put it on yourself first instead of that child. Because if you don't, what's going to happen? You're not even going to be there to help them, and then you'll be burdening them in the future.
Now, I noticed you got a column here on insurance, and you're a registered investment advisor. You do defensive planning.
We plan for this, and we make sure that people are covered and they have the proper amounts and the proper types. We do not sell any type of insurance product.
You just make sure that they get it.
We make sure that they have it.
So you're outsourcing that to people who are licensed to do that. Okay.
Yes, we do.
And you don't get involved in any of that once you've but you've determined the price tag. Like, do you do the amount of insurance, right? Or if it's life insurance, you're doing the amount.
Exactly. We do full comprehensive financial planning, which means we take a really good look at the big picture. So we know their tax situation, their cash flows, and so we can help determine their future goals and objectives and how much they need to save.
Well, in our society today, especially among women, I've noticed two areas which are really tough right now. I call them single income no kids and single income raising kids.
Yes.
Sinks and circs.
Right, and you have to take that into consideration when you're trying to determine how much, yes.
Now, when you're talking about disability is probably, I have to say, in my career of 30 years, it's probably the most neglected insurance of all. People just hope they get a short-term DI off their group health plan at work.
Right.
But a lot of people don't offer that.
Exactly.
So how important in your thinking is to make this, because income, that's the real big issue.
Well, very important, because especially if you don't have enough in that emergency savings, what happens if all of a sudden you become disabled and you cannot work? You can't pay your mortgage, you can't feed your children. I mean, you have to have something there to replace income.
Now, when you talk to women about this, is that something that they get and they appreciate it and adapt to that?
Yes, there's some education there. You have to kind of show them and make them more aware of that, obviously. That's usually not one of their top priorities.
Now, I noticed, before I get to LTC, I'd rather go to your bottom number here, umbrella policies. I'm thinking, you know, it's so funny. I've had them all my life, and every time I tell somebody about an umbrella policy, they say, what's that?
Right.
Talk a little bit about why that's so popular.
Property and casualty, yes, an umbrella. It's just it's an additional amount that you can get of coverage on your homeowner's insurance. And what happens is it needs to be there, so if you got sued, if a neighbor child came over and was jumping on your trampoline, you need something there to help protect. And it's usually a very small premium amount for the coverage that you can receive.
Well, when I think about long-term care, I mean, 70% of the seniors, existing seniors, use some form, not all full-blown nursing home, but assisted living at home and so forth, which is almost everybody's elected. So when I'm looking at long-term care, when are you starting to talk to women about long-term care?
Usually as the X-gen, at the older level of the X generation. But they need, because women are living longer, they really need to look at that. And so if we do have a couple that comes in, usually it's the women we need to focus on, because statistically they will live longer and they're going to need some kind of help.
Well, there are some of the basics that you attack as a registered investment advisor to bring solutions to these kind of challenges. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Missed an episode? Just go out to our video archives. And remember, you could be wiser as an educated advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you tomorrow.